guys, for today's video, let's talk about beef. So I just wrote an article the other day on our blog all about how to buy beef from a farmer, and I thought I would kind of talk about some of that in this video, but then I wanted to go a little deeper and talk about what it really takes to raise beef, so you understand that when you're buying it from a farmer or a rancher, you understand it's not just the monetary cost that goes into these animals, it's the time, the attention, the detail, and the love that really does go into these animals. So how do you buy beef shares or beef in bulk? I'm going to talk about it in bulk in this video. In Florida, we have two ways to buy beef. We can buy it in bulk, in shares, so usually it's advertised as a whole, a half, or a quarter. Or you can buy individual cuts of meat. The individual cuts of meat that you can still buy from a farmer or a rancher have to be USDA inspected and stamped. That is a little bit more of a process and a little more expensive, so a lot of farmers choose to sell the shares. Now when you're buying a share, you're buying a part of a whole cow. They're gonna pay the farmer or the rancher their price, and then you're also gonna pay the butcher the processing fees. Sometimes it's all in one, but most commonly in our area I see them separate, and that way, well, we'll get into some more of the processing fees later on, because the processing fees can change depending on the kind of cuts of meat you want. So one of the first things you want to ask a farmer or a rancher is, how are the cows, how is the beef raised? So everybody has their preferences, right? Grass-fed is very popular right now. It's a very healthy way to have beef, but it is not the only way. And then grain-fed has gotten a very bad rap. But our cows, these two behind me, they are scheduled for the butcher next week. They are already sold into separate shares, and they got a combination of grass and grain. So we didn't exclusively grass feed and we didn't exclusively grain feed. If you can kind of see the field behind me, they're on a 5-acre grassy field that they share with my horses, but they have access to unlimited grass all summer long. When the grass goes dormant here in the winter, they have access to hay all winter long. For the last 4 to 6 months of their life, we supplement with grain. And we do this by starting with literally 1 or 2 handfuls and introducing it really slow so that their guts have time to get used to it and we're not overwhelming their digestion. Then we slowly increase as the weight increases, and we only feed them 2 times a day. They only come in this pen to eat the grain, and the only reason I lock them in is because my horses will come over and push them off it and steal it from them. So as soon as they're done eating, I open the gate and they go back out on the grass field all day, all night. They're maybe in here 20 minutes, if they even take that long to eat. So what kind of grain are we feeding? I have sourced a non-GMO grain that I felt comfortable feeding them, because first and foremost, we eat this beef. We do sell it, but we eat it. So it has to be something that I'm willing to feed my family. And I do like the flavor of grain-fed beef. I think in Florida as well, without lots of pasture or lots of different crops planted. For instance, some people will do rye and oats in the winter and peas in the summer or the spring. And if you can vary their vegetation and really feed them that way, then you can probably get a really good grass-fed cow. It can take 2 to 3 years to do that. Grain speeds up the process a little. Now, for our operation, we've had our herd for 2 years, and we have made no money so far. So we needed to start making money so that we can keep farming and keep improving our farm and growing our herd. And so the way to do that for us was to grain feed them so that we could get some cash flow. So these two go to the butcher next week. All of our customers will pick up their beef on September 9th. When these two go, I have 4 calves that will be coming in. We're gonna wean them. We're gonna give them time to acclimate away from their mamas. They are between 6 and 8 months old. We never take them off before that. And then they will begin feeding grain. And we will kind of, I see how they do once they're started on the grain before I start booking butcher dates, and then I'll just work my way back. How long do I think they need? And I really build them up slow over time. I really, these guys are on about 16 or 18 pounds of grain each per day, split into 2 feedings. And so that's not a crazy amount of grain. That's not like they're gorging themselves or making themselves sick. So these are all good questions to ask a farmer and rancher. Of course, you always want to do it respectfully and politely, but if they're not willing to be open about their practices, I would be a little suspicious about buying. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but for me, I'm an open book. I have had customers ask me a million questions about these cows. I have offered for them to come see the cows. I have videos of the cows. We have nothing to hide. If you don't want grass-fed beef, I will be 100% upfront with you and say this is not your beef, because this is grass and grain-fed. So if you want no grain, then I will be completely honest and transparent. And I think all farmers and ranchers should be that way, so that we are establishing honest and trustworthy communication with our buyers, with our customers. So what does it cost a farmer or rancher to feed these cows? These cows are about 20 months old, so they've had a full winter of hay. Their first winter, they were still nursing, they weren't eating a lot, so they've had a full winter of hay. In the winter months, hay costs us $50 per cow per month. So let's just say 6 months. They got hay for 6 months. That's $300 in hay. Now the grain that I've put them on does cost a bit more because it's non-GMO, but I care about quality, so I don't mind paying a little bit more for the grain. In total, they had about $1,800 worth of grain. So divide that by 2, that's 900 plus the 300. So you're looking at 1,200 to, let's say, 1,500, because my math is not exact. I have it all written down, but I'm estimating for the sake of this video. So let's say $1,200 to $1,500 per cow, just to get them to the finish line, to the processing goal. Now, you have to think about that when you go to pay your farmer or rancher. You also have to think about, it's really hard for us as a farmer and rancher to quantify our time. I come out here 2 times a day to feed them. Not only am I feeding them, I'm checking waters, I'm checking on their well-being, I look them over, I make sure there's no cuts, there's no sign of sickness. They've never had any vaccines, and they've never had any antibiotics. And I have customers ask me that too. Would I give antibiotics? Yes, I would. If it was a life or death situation and it was the only way to save a cow, then yes, I would give an antibiotic. I haven't had any reason to vaccinate. And like I said, we really only worm when we see a really skinny cow and she's a lot skinnier than the others, and you got to get a red flag like, why is she? So worming, we do worm. But with our mama cows, they don't go for beef. So we do want them to be super healthy and have really strong calves, but we also don't want to make a herd resistant, kind of getting into any of that. So now you kind of have an idea. I mean, I'm trying to think how many hours a day could I say I spent feeding these cows. I may be out here 30 minutes to an hour each feeding, but I do other things too. I have horses to feed, I have chickens and rabbits and dogs. So, you know, let's say an hour a day worth of actual time. Now in the winter when we have to put out hay, that takes us a little longer, but not a whole lot longer. But how do you pay yourself for that time? That's all things that farmers and ranchers, we have to think about when we're pricing our beef. We also have to think about what are our costs coming up for the next winter. Our farm has a lot of planted pine trees, and we are in the process of getting them out so that we can set up rotational grazing. So we do feed more hay right now than we will when we have a lot more of our trees cleared and we have our rotational pastures up. So I just want to say that because I think as a consumer, sometimes we just see a price tag, but you are paying for quality, nutritious beef. You are also supporting your community, and you are also keeping your money locally and at home, and not with these big corporations who a lot of times got their money into things that you probably don't support and do not value. So I think you should find a farmer or rancher that you align with, and that you're okay with their practices, you're happy with the way the beef's being raised, and then you can really feel good about that purchase. So when you do decide to buy one, let's say you're gonna buy, we'll just say a whole cow, because for the math that'll be easier for this video. So let's say the whole cow goes in and its live weight is 1,000 pounds. That's the weight right now, alive, on the hoof when it's delivered at the butcher. After they kill it and they gut it and take the hide off and they get it all ready to hang, it has to hang for a minimum of 14 to 21 days. And these are questions you want to ask your processor. I have talked to butchers that have said to me, I can only hang them for 8 days, I'm too busy, and I've got to make space, it's got to flow. Well, then I'm not going to use that butcher, because the recommendation is really 14 to 21 days, and the longer the better. So the butcher that we are currently using always does 14 days. And I was really happy that that was their practice and they weren't willing to compromise on it. So after the live weight, once it's hanging, that's its hanging weight. It's approximately 60% of the live weight. So that takes you down to 600 pounds. 600 pounds of hanging weight. Most farmers and ranchers are charging you on the hanging weight. Here in Florida, in August of 2023, prices are anywhere from $5, I would say, to $7 or $8 a pound on the hanging weight. Most of the time when you buy a whole, it's cheaper per pound. If you go to a quarter, it's a little more per pound. Some people keep it the same. That is really just a farmer or rancher preference. And then you're gonna have your final weight, and that's 60% of the hanging weight. So on a 1,000 pound cow, you're looking at anywhere between maybe 360 and 400 pounds of take-home meat. Now, the benefit of buying it like this is that you will then communicate directly either with your farmer, or a lot of times it's the butcher, and they will go over a cut sheet with you, and they will tell you exactly what kind of cuts are available, and you will decide, does your family eat more burger? Does it eat more roast? Does it eat more steaks? You get a say in all the cuts that you get. And for us, as soon as I get the hanging weight, I call my customers or email them, and I say, look, this is what they weighed. Everybody, all of our customers give us a deposit to secure their beef. So what will be due to me on the day of pickup is the hanging weight times the amount minus their deposit. Then we have our customers pay the butcher separately. Our butcher charges $70 for a kill fee, and then he's got a per pound price, and I can't remember it right now. And that's what he charges to cut it up, and that includes all the processing and all the packaging. I have gotten it both ways. I've gotten it with butcher paper and plastic, and I have gotten it vacuum sealed, and I highly recommend vacuum seal. But again, that is a preference, and that is another question for your processor. So those are your butchering options, and there might be more. You can request soup bones. You can request the suet, so you can boil it down and get tallow. I am looking into a taxidermist so that I can have their hides tanned and turn them into rugs, because I have put so much time and love and effort into these cows that it feels sinful to me to waste any part of them. And I just think that not wasting them is honoring them. So it's important to me that I really try to use every piece. And if I have customers that don't want the marrow, don't want the soup bones, don't want the suet, I ask the butcher, I'll take those, I'll have that. Because I don't want, like I said, I don't want anything thrown away that doesn't need to be thrown away. So after it's butchered, it's packaged, they deep freeze it. Some of these farms and ranches offer delivery or shipping, which I think is totally amazing. We are not to that point yet. We're not, I would say we haven't grown that big yet. I hope one day to offer it. I do have a lot of friends 3 hours south of here, so I probably could, maybe with the next batch, make a trip down and do some delivery that way. But this time, we're asking all our customers to be available on September 9th, on the date, and to pick up at the butcher. Our butcher is over in Madison, Florida, so as long as they can do that, we have them bring coolers, and so they'll show up that day, and I'm gonna be there because some of them, well, no, all these customers I know, but if I didn't, especially, I'd want to be there that day to shake their hand and tell them thank you, and I'll take their payment, and the butcher will take their payment, and then they'll be on their way with their delicious, nutritious beef. So that's kind of the gist of how we raise it, what goes into it, and then the process of, you know, ordering a share and how you're gonna get that all from start to finish. So what is the impact? Well, you're not gonna get anything fresher or more local. You're supporting your farmers, you're supporting your community. I think I talked about this earlier. I really believe in this because Politically and in our country, it is a mess right now, and I don't trust some of these big corporations. I don't know where my money's going. I also think a lot of the marketing is really misleading. Like, eggs can say cage free, but they're actually like crammed into a tiny little barn. So I don't have a lot of trust. When you build a relationship with your farmer, rancher, homesteaders even, homesteaders are producing some amazing things and selling them on such small acreage, it's great. Then you really know where it's coming from, and if you can see the family you're impacting, for instance, we have 4 kids and I homeschool, and doing this beef helps our farm keep going, then you can really feel good about where you're spending your dollars. And I think we've lost that a little bit when we're just kind of mindlessly buying from these big corporations, grocery stores. So let's see, I'm sure I've missed things. I know I didn't cover everything. This is a huge topic, and I just wanted to do a quick overview. I did write an article on how to buy beef from your farmer, and I'm working on another one. Say you are a farmer, a rancher, or a homesteader, and you want to get into beef. I'm gonna write an article covering all of that, so I will leave the links below to our blog so you can check out those articles. And then please ask me questions in the comments, or share with me what you do or what you've had success with, or even what's been really hard for you, because I would love inspiration for more videos and blog posts, and I also think we learn so much from one another. The family that I buy my non-GMO grain from, we sit and chat every time I pick up feed, and I just walk away feeling just so supported, and also he's saying hi. So supportive and so inspired and motivated, and we kind of share like what's working for us and what's not working for us, and it's just really nice to build that community. I think sometimes being on YouTube or on a blog, you feel like you're separated from everybody, but the good thing about technology is it can join us all together, and we can grow and learn from each other. So please leave me a comment, leave me questions. Let me know what you want to know about buying beef, raising beef, anything to do with beef. Thanks so much for watching, and please like and subscribe.